We'll go ahead and call our meeting to order for the month of December 2021. If everyone will please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Everyone can be seated. Thank you for coming out. And first and foremost, happy holidays and Merry Christmas. As we are here in the month of December on a beautiful night in Sparta. In front of you, council members, you have the agenda here for tonight. If there's any additions or changes to the agenda, we'll entertain those items at this time. We'll have a motion to approve the agenda. Terry, you wanted to make that motion to approve the agenda? Second. Have a second down here on the end. All in favor, show of hands on the approval of the agenda, 5-0. You also have the minutes of our regular meeting from November. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Have a second here. All in favor, show of hands, please, for the approval minutes, 5-0. At this time, we'll all open up our podium for public comments on agenda items and agenda items only. Citizens are encouraged to comment at this time on the agenda. And there being no movement to the podium, we'll go ahead and pass that and close our public comments at this time. We do have the administration of the oaths of office for mayor and town council, and I think Miss Peggy is going to take care of that for us.
Would you all please stand?
Just the ones who were elected.
Just the ones that were elected. Newly re-elected. So.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support and maintain the constitutions and the laws of the United States and the constitutions and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of your office, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to say congratulations to Councilmember Brady and Councilmember Palier for being reelected. Also like to take this opportunity to thank the citizens that did come out and vote in last month's elections. Thank you for letting your voices be heard and exercising your right to vote. Couldn't be more proud of our town.
I'd like to go ahead and commend your being reelected, Mayor. I'll second that.
If I had lost that election, I would have not run anymore, running unopposed. So that would have been it for that. But I appreciate that. We do need to make an appointment of our mayor pro tem. And I'll entertain a motion for someone to nominate someone.
I nominate Mike Palier.
I'll second that.
Have a nomination and a second. Is there any other discussion or any other nominations? All in favor of Mike Palier being mayor pro tem, show of hands. And he votes himself in again. So that's 5-0 for that.
I still got some keys to give away.
Agenda item number 7 is the Rural Transportation Advisory Committee appointment. And we need to do that. I'm going to let our town manager, Ryan Wilmoth, explain what's going on here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Town Council. We received notice from the High Country RPO that the seat for the Town Council that is currently held by John Brady is set to expire December 31st of this year. And we need to either make a new appointment or reappoint Mr. Brady if he so chooses.
At this time,
John, you take it again?
Yeah.
I'd like to nominate John.
have a motion and a second. Is there any other nominations? All in favor? A show of hands on John Brady, please. You want to vote for yourself? There you go. That's good. That's good. We'll keep the momentum going there. Mr. Manager, incorporation of conflict of interest provisions to local ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this item and the next item are directly related. So I'll cover both. We'll need action on each individual item. But back July 1 of this year, some new legislation came down that affects local government authority for zoning and land use. Previously, municipalities kind of had their own general statute and authority, and that was 160A. And then counties had their own zoning and enforcement, and that was 153A. So what the legislator did is tie that all together. It is now a streamlined process that works for both entities, and that is 160D. With that legislation comes a whole mixture of requirements and opportunities for improvement for local governments. As part of that, a local government has to adopt a conflicts of interest into their zoning ordinances for elected boards, appointed boards, and administrative staff that deal with land use and development regulation. So what you have in your packet is a proposed ordinance amendment that identifies that conflict of interest. It is taken directly from the recommendation from the school government. So it does meet that legislative requirement for us to incorporate. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have to that. 160D-109 is actually the conflicts of interest statute. We just made a reference. This will keep us from having to amend our ordinance should the legislator change a word or two inside that statute. So this should last us for a foreseeable future without having to amend that. But that 109 is where you can go and reference what exactly is entailed in the conflict of interest.
Need a motion?
We do need a formal adoption.
I have a motion to adopt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. All in favor, a show of hands for the adoption, and it's a 5-0 vote.
I'll continue
Yes, sir.
with the next item, Mr. Mayor. Inside that same vein, 160D does require that a local government that has a zoning ordinance have a comprehensive land use plan. Now, we have one, and I found it, and it's a 2000 edition. 20 years have passed. The stipulation of the ordinance says up to date. I think we could argue that a 20-year-old land use plan probably is not up to date. So inside your packet, you had a proposal from the High Country Council of Governments to actually update and author a land use plan for the town of Sparta. Really at a very attractive cost, even though it is $10,000 that we didn't necessarily budget for. But the penalty for not having an up-to-date land use plan is you can enforce zoning ordinances after July 1, 2022. So if we don't undertake this, we're going to lose our ability to enforce our zoning ordinance, which I think we can all identify that is not the best outcome for the town. Our zoning ordinance is something that drives growth and regulates the appearance and conduct of our town. So while the $10,000 is unbudgeted, the finance officer and I have identified funding that is available to complete this, and I would recommend allowing the High Country to proceed with
So
conducting
they're
our land.
developing this, right?
They are,
And so we'll adopt it at a later date.
correct.
Okay. So what we're doing right now is voting to allocate that money.
Correct.
Got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
In years past, these things have come down the pike that you gotta have a comprehensive plan of this, that, and the other. And, I think there've been committees formed. I've sat on some of them. They've been done, through local efforts with the guidance of High Country and whatever guidance that we might need. Would that not be a little bit more cost-effective way to approach this as to just pay these people $10,000 to come up with a plan that we don't have any input on?
You will have very much input. In their proposal, item number 2, is public involvement, facilitation of 3 meetings, and obviously you will have final say as a governing board.
But in years past, they kind of did this to help us out, and now they decide it's $10,000 to do it.
We'll consider every local government in North Carolina is having to come
Do it
up
at the
with
same
these.
time.
They are inundated with requests for plan development, and this is something that is very detailed, very useful, and will serve the town for
Right.
a long time.
Well,
So it's going to take man hours. Expecting them to do it for free,
ain't gonna do it anymore, huh?
I wouldn't authorize our staff to do it for free.
Well, no, I was just, looking back of these things have come along periodically in the past and everybody had to do them and there wasn't a $10,000 price tag on them, but that's the only option they're offering us. And we've got a deadline by July the 1st or whatever you said, then
2022.
sounds like that our hands are more or less tied on this one.
So any idea of a timeline as far as input and gathering information?
So in speaking with Phil True, which will be heading this project for us, they want to start in January. Some of it will be their staff going through town, looking through the old plan. They anticipate having the meetings very early on to get an idea of what the local feel is, and then they will incorporate that as they discover more. I would say February, March at the latest.
What about the incorporation of, we had the creative placemaking group here doing something very similar, looking to see what our needs were and that kind of thing. Whenever, I don't think that the chamber has got that back yet.
That's great.
What about incorporating those findings into the plan as well?
We will be able to do that. Creative placemaking is putting a final report together. We expect that sometime early first of the year. So we will have that living document that can be incorporated into this. Their scope is just a little bit different than what ours would be. But I think they do complement very well and will provide a very detailed plan for what the town's going to be in 2, 5, 10 years.
Okay.
I think, everything needs to be updated, and he wants to say, listen, with the request of the town manager there, then make a motion that we adopt this.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of show of hands? 5-0 on that adoption of the land use plan. Agenda item number 10 is a consideration of the Allegheny Lives garden request. Brian, if you will elaborate on that a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Town Council. Staff and I were approached by Allegheny Lives for an enhancement to the garden area that is currently in the park. It is kind of down near the creek. It's a stone circle with some rose bushes, etc. Based on some conversation that the park committee has had and some thoughts about space inside the park. We discussed with Allegheny Lives to relocate that to a spot that meets their needs and is better positioned on the available parcel that we have. So they have provided a sketch in your packet of a garden that would sit essentially on the bank, kind of there at Grayson and Cherry Street, just off the walking path. It currently is a spot where a covered bench had been. The bench is no longer there, so we just kind of have a covered structure that serves no purpose. Allegheny Lives evaluated that spot and thought it would be very attractive and appropriate for their purpose. Certainly, we support what that entity stands for and their campaign of suicide prevention and awareness. Given the sketch, the dimensions of the area they're talking about, I recommend that if the council feels that's appropriate, it does fit inside the park improvements and the activities going on in the park.
Is there cost to us or
No cost to us.
How about
maintenance?
Yeah,
They have maintained that other garden very well and keep it very attractive, planting bushes, mulching, etc. It's minimal upkeep other than us mowing around it.
So what they're wanting to move it from where it's at now.
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct.
Well, if we do this and everything, we need to just fill that other hole in or something,
Agreed.
you know. They can't use where they're at now for this.
Right.
Even if they filled it in and they could put all the bushes, could it be used?
That and with some anticipated amenities coming to the park, I don't know that current location is going to serve them well for their anticipated use. They want the garden to be a reflection, kind of an area for folks to sit, collect thoughts, etc.
be more visible.
Agreed.
So you need a motion to approve this?
I do.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second on the end. All in favor, show of hands. 5-0. Agenda item number 11, discussion of the interlocal agreement for tax collection. I'll let Town manager.
Mr. Brady is going to.
Mr.
Peggy,
Brady.
before I do anything, I have a question. Now, am I correct in that they're very slow about getting us their money?
What's 2 months behind?
Huh?
2 months.
2 months behind. And I'm also correct in that with this agreement, we have to let them know 6 months in advance if we wish to terminate that.
By the first week of January, correct.
So, and we are prepared to do this tax collection.
The town has taken steps to prepare our staff, and we have a team in place, should that be the direction of the council.
Okay. I know you're against this, but I'm gonna make a motion that we terminate this agreement.
I'd like to ask a couple of questions, Mr. Brady, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
This is on the agenda, obviously, because of the 6-month deadline, I understand that. And the point that Mr. Brady made, that they're lagging somewhat in the collections or in the disbursement to us, we are certainly not at a point that we're put in a difficult position, are we or are we not? Because the money's not here every month. Is that causing some sort of,
It does impact our cash flow.
does impact the cash flow? Okay, now, Mr. Wilmoth, you said that we have a team in place. I would be interested in hearing exactly what that consists of.
It'd be a finance officer, assistant finance officer, and our accounts payable, utilities specialist, along with our reception. So we have a team of 4,
So finance officer is Miss Peggy, correct?
correct?
The assistant finance officer is whom?
Joe Ring. Matthias.
The accounts payable and utilities,
Sandy Hendricks.
Sandy Hendricks.
Yes, ma'am.
Is she new?
She is.
And the last person was whom?
Kathy Anders.
Okay, so you've hired Sandy Hendricks to add to the competent group that we already have. What are we gonna pay, Miss Sandy over the span of a year? What is she gonna cost us? As far as salaries, benefits, et cetera, are we looking at
I
ballpark?
would consider that a personnel matter, although it's public, so
Give me a
would,
ballpark figure. We talking 30,000, 35, 40,
mid-range.
35 to 40? Don't want to, certainly, that's between her and you all. So we've already hired another person at $35,000 to $40,000 to do this in-house. Now, I want to harken back to the first discussion that Ms. Shode and I had about this issue when the tax payment to us was slow a year ago, more than a year ago, and we talked, and she said, I said, yeah, well, can we do this in-house? And she said, well, probably so, but it would be an inconvenience for the lawyers and the realtors to have to go 2 different places. And she didn't verbalize the fact, but it's obvious without being stated that it's going to be a major inconvenience for the taxpayers of the town of Sparta, because now they're going to get 2 bills and they have to go 2 different places to pay it. And if they're, that's just going to be an inconvenience for them as well. Now, that's one point. And we're talking about, we've hired another person at $35,000 to $40,000. Now, you've got the team in place, and that's fine. That's good. What kind of figures can we have on the actual cost? The way I understand this, we're starting to do something we've not done before. Okay? So-
From my understanding,
done it.
we
We
done
did
it
it
previously.
before.
Okay, we
We have.
did it before, but recently we haven't done it before. So basically, we're not set up to do it at this point. So everything that it entails will be an added expense that we're not paying at this time.
Peggy, we are set up right now.
We're
We can
set
run.
up, we have the software and everything, and we're paying for it, even though we're not doing it. Our part really is just the collection. The county would have to do everything else. We're just collecting, receiving the file, and then collecting from the file that they make for us. That's not county. They have to, they do everything else.
They still assess the property and everything,
They
right?
assess it, but they're not gonna foreclose on property for
No,
us, so
no.
they're not
Now-
gonna levy
But
on
in-
accounts for us, and they're not gonna stamp a deed to ensure that before that property transfers, that the town taxes are paid.
No, but we do have in place for all of that to happen. We've already checked on all of that.
Okay, so excuse me, I wasn't finished with my question. We've got software in place that can collect these taxes. Now, are we gonna be sending out the tax notices? And if so, what are they gonna be like? What's the postage gonna run? Does this software print out these tax notices? Do we have the printers and all that stuff to do that? Can we, I mean, like I said, we're not doing it right now. So you're saying we're just gonna send out the notices? They're
We'll
gonna,
do all of that, and we have companies now that will do that for us at a minimum cost.
What is
Or
the
we can do it in-house. We're checking on all of that.
what's the minimal cost?
We're checking on that right now. We're paying like the county sends our bills out to a company to do it for us. And
Okay,
we're paying them. So what we're paying them will be in turn probably what we'll be paying, which is
So-
less than.
So we're
$300.
already paying we're already reimbursing the county for
Right, for doing
printing
it
costs.
for us now.
let me get this clear, and maybe I'm just slow-witted, but we're paying the county, in our contract, we said we would pay 3% of what they collected per year. Now, for year two,
Plus.
plus what?
Plus
Plus,
printing costs.
I'll reimburse printing costs, everything else.
So we're paying them,
We pay them 3% plus, in this last contract, we pay them $7,000,
no,
$15,000 a year.
$17,000 for just to do it at the tax office, at the finance
So
office.
we pay them $17,000 now
okay,
to do
and
this, plus 3% of our taxes.
no,
No. Plus the, printing of the bills, sending out the bills and the ads.
so
So
it's-
we're paying them $17,000 a year to
Total.
do that.
total,
Not total, we
Not
paid
total.
18,000 plus total. this year.
18,000 plus what?
Dollars to do our taxes.
18,000 for this year. And that would be the tax year 2020, they collected $535,200 some odd dollars for us, a collection rate of 91.1,
Now, do they
99.1%.
get an additional 3% of the taxes they collect?
No, that's in the 3%'s in
No, that's what the
18,000.
3% is,
The
with
3%,
the addition of printing costs included in that
okay, the
number.
3% is in the 18,000, and that also includes printing costs. So that's what we're paying them, and they're doing a fine job, and everybody gets a notice, and everybody pays their taxes at the same place. So what, again, I'm a little confused as to why we're going backwards to doing it ourselves, because although it's impacting our cash flow, it's not costing us any money. So you've got a person up here, $40,000 you're gonna pay to help facilitate this, and then your other costs that you're looking at in addition to that, that's still way more than $18,000.
Would we have,
I mean, I'm just a figures person.
would we have the new person regardless? Because in our discussions, weren't we going to hire someone and then have someone, the assistant finance officer, for when, heaven forbid, that day ever comes that Peggy leaves us, so we have somebody who knows what's going on in the finance office.
So-
That is part of our
So we're gonna
business
have this
is everything.
personnel regardless
So-
of collecting taxes or not.
But she was hired, and this is not really appropriate at all since her name's already been publicly stated. I'm gonna assume that she has some qualifications to do these things. Now, had we not looked at doing the taxes, the town of Sparta doesn't have more people. We don't have more things going on in the front office. Had you all not considered collecting our own taxes, there wouldn't have been any urgency in hiring this person. So my contention is that we've got 40-some plus thousand plus these additional costs that you've not yet identified, and as opposed to 18,000 to have it done and be convenient for the taxpayers. I don't see that this is a good idea. And I don't really understand why, other than the fact that they're running a couple of months late, that impacts your cash flow. I get that. I don't see why we're getting out of this contract when we got people doing everything for us. And Whitney, how many of your clients, how many of your real estate people have you talked to about this? How happy are they that they're gonna have to go to two places and check two places and do all these
Well,
things?
I haven't talked to anybody about this, but I think that since you asked, I don't get a vote, and I understand that, but I think you're underestimating the value of what the county provides to this town by collecting the taxes. If we are recording a deed, the county will not let it go through their system and be recorded if there are delinquent taxes.
Correct.
We never get notified of that. We just get our money.
Right.
If the town taxes aren't paid, that deed's still gonna get recorded, and our town employees will be chasing down that money if it's not prorated and collected at closing.
Just to clarify something, that is not how it happens now. We have to have it certified.
So you're gonna have a different stamp.
Right.
So then you're gonna have to have at least two people who are available all the time to answer to these deeds coming through, because when people are getting a loan and they're buying a house, They don't care if you're sick or miss whoever's out. Somebody has to be there to be able to respond to this. Because there are loans and interests and deadlines involved.
And what-
I was here when we used to collect our own taxes, and it was a train wreck.
And Whitney, to your point, and I understood your terminology, you said, I think you underestimate. I don't
I
underestimate
don't
what they're
mean you,
doing.
I just mean in general.
I don't underestimate at all what they're doing, and I've talked with Rita on a couple of occasions. Now, if we get into a position where we have someone with delinquent taxes, okay, and this goes the full gamut of all the steps that it takes. And so I said, well, what, they have a law firm that does this. I said, do you keep them on retainer? Is this a case by case? She says case by case. And I said, well, what? She says average $3,000. So we have 3 delinquent taxes we have to chase down. That's $10,000 on top of the $40,000 we've already spent for a new person and this, that, and the other. Now, the way it is now, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, and Whitney, certainly you've touched on what I'm trying to get back to. At $18,000 a year, they're doing it all. They're doing it all. They're collecting these taxes. They're sending them. They're advertising them. They're putting these people under collection. They're auctioning off at the courthouse door, whatever has to take place.
They're
And
not auctioning off because we've never had any property since I've been here that has been auctioned off by the county for the town at the courthouse.
well, and that's good. That's certainly good, Ms. Choate. That's excellent
They do
record.
levy on bank accounts. if
That is an
somebody's
excellent.
delinquent.
They do
They
the
do levy on
levy.
bank
And
accounts.
so that's excellent, but that's not to say we won't have 3 this year. Because we can't predict the future. So I think Ms. Ivy has reiterated and reinforced my contention that we're getting a real good deal now, and it's a good deal for the town, it's a good deal for everybody involved, it's a good deal for the taxpayers. So why are we going off the rails on this thing? Can anybody tell me? Other than the fact that they're a couple of months late in making their payments. What other pressing issue is forcing us to take a cost-effective system? And Ms. Ivy said, when we did before, it's a train wreck. So I'm not here to represent the lawyers and the real estate folks necessarily, but I am here to represent the taxpayers, and it's going to be an inconvenience for them. So why are we taking, as the old saying goes, if it's not broke, why fix it?
Well, I think the question has to be, do we want to do this to save our taxpayers $17,000 a
Well,
year?
we're not saving them, honey.
We are.
If it costs us $18,000 to do it the way we're doing it, and we've already got,
$17,000 goes to the county.
We've already
The
got-
other goes to
we've
our
already
printing
got 40 plus tied up in a new person, plus additional
gonna
costs
have
that
the
you
new-
can't,
we're
that you
gonna
can't
have the-
identify.
Can I ask you to say this? I think a good working relationship is just as valuable as us. So for me, I think the good relationship, being able to talk to people and making sure. And that's not what we have.
I think that you're exactly correct, and I do respect that immensely, and I do respect the lengths that you all have always gone to have that. But when it comes down to the dollars and cents, even if we have to deal in a relationship that is not optimal, and that's the word that I'll use, even if it's a relationship that's not optimal, then why can we throw back all these additional costs on the taxpayers, plus inconvenience them, plus inconvenience all the people that have to deal with this, when we've got a system that's working like a charm?
The last thing I'll say to your points, we're going to have the person up front regardless if we
So the
take.
$40,000.
Regardless if we collect taxes or not, we're going to have that person. So that goes away. Because the whole point of that was to get somebody trained under Peggy for when she leaves us. So that's happening regardless if we collect taxes or not. So that correlates, if we brought it in-house, to a savings of $17,000. The rest of that, $18,000 and some change, so $1,000 and some dollars and some change would go to our printing cost, which we already pay to the county. So that's covered. So at the end of the day, we would be looking at a savings of $17,000 or so. I can't speak for all the headaches that may incur after that. But then the inconvenience to the taxpayer, the majority of people that are paying tax bills pay a water bill with the town. So they're sending money to the town anyway. So this would just be one time out of the entire year that they would come to the town and pay their taxes, most likely along with a water bill that they're going to pay anyway instead of going to the county.
And I appreciate that. It's all certainly in how you look at the figures. And certainly we appreciate the fact that Ms. Show has advised or suggested, or you all have discussed that, we need to hire somebody so she can train, so she can comfortably retire, and that person's going to be ready to step in, and that's all fine and good. But we still made this move right now because you need this person to help collect these taxes. And I don't see any way that all of this is going to happen for less than $18,000. And personally, as a taxpayer, now I pay taxes, you pay taxes, the council members, we all pay property tax in town of Sparta. So I think it's wonderful that I get one tax bill and it says Sparta and it says Allegheny County, and I go one place and I pay it and everything's beautiful. Now, the water bill and having people, well, you got to pay this tax here, and then you got to take this, pay it where you pay your water bill, and of course, if everybody mails it in and everybody's right on time and all that sort of thing. But still, I don't see how you can take a very good working system, even though, it is the working relationship is not optimal. I still don't see why you take something that's working well and you go back to something that, if I may quote our council, was a train wreck before.
At the end of the collection, when I got involved and we were deciding to move it to the county,
Right.
we had delinquent taxes that we didn't really know where to go
Valid
back to
point.
collect to because they had been,
Valid
it had
point.
changed hands multiple times and we didn't have a system now. Maybe we have a better system now.
Well, I don't understand
But
what the better system might be if we didn't have it before, because the county hires a law firm. And the county turns those delinquent taxes over to that law firm. And if you haven't paid your taxes by a certain period of time, you talk to the law firm. And you can go down here to the county office and you can say, well, we're sorry, it's out of our hands. So are we gonna hire a law firm to do what the county's already doing for us at $3,000 a clip?
If we need to.
So all y'all are saying, well, whatever we need to throw into this, we're gonna do it, although it may not be cost effective, and the system we have now is great, except we're not got an optimal relationship. We're a couple of months behind on collect tax, but we're gonna go ahead and do this, and no matter how much money we have to throw into it, we're gonna do it. Well, to me, that's not sound fiscal policy. That's putting emotions or something in front of the fiscal reality. So I can't, you all haven't sold me on this being a good idea. And
Mr.
that's
Mayor,
my point.
If I may,
Yes, sir.
just two rhetorical questions that don't need an answer, but for you to think about before we get to a vote. Where is the stopping point? Because last year at this time, we were enjoying a 1.5% collection rate, and we're hit out of the blue with a 4 and negotiated it to 3. So at what point do you say we're not going up anymore? Or, well, it's not that much. We can go that far, and then the next year it's a little more. So where's your stopping point?
We got
And
we got a
secondly-
three-year
Hang on,
contract.
let him finish.
We got a
and-
3-year contract now.
Let him finish.
And secondly, you were promised a better service with a 3% cut. Has anything changed?
99 point.
The tax collection is not the issue. The tax office does a fantastic job for us. And we owe those individuals that are in that tax office, a huge thank you and kudos for the hard work. The contract doesn't stop there. It involves other departments. And that is where the 3% figure came from. That if you give us more money, we're going to provide a better service. Nothing has changed in that service. Mr. Mayor, I yield the floor.
So what are you saying we haven't gotten better service? The only thing I've heard in this whole discussion is they're a couple of months behind getting us our tax money. What else?
That was the whole conversation that led to a negotiated contract,
They just
3%.
don't get taxed, they also have to give us, we don't have a choice. They do our vehicle tax too, which is behind. So,
That's not gonna change. That's
So-
state statute, right?
and they have to do that's not gonna change, but, and when audit comes, when we have an audit and all of our tax money is not in, I have to get reports and stuff from them and talk with the auditor. Rita is fantastic in the tax office, giving me the information I need.
Well, I was thinking here a while back, the county got behind. I forgot how much. That's where it all brought up on the percentage right there. And then it's like the manager has stated there, where do you put a starting place? It's 3% now, maybe 5% next.
No, we got a 3-year contract. It's 3% now, and it's gonna be 3% for 3 years.
But,
We've not given them time through the life of the contract to improve. And the only thing I'm hearing is, although it's not an optimal relationship, all I hear from you all is that everybody's been super good to work with. So
In the tax office,
I'm
let me
just,
clarify.
I'm still lost as to why we're even having this discussion. And maybe, I'm just lost because of all the things we can combine and do together, that's a savings for the taxpayer. So y'all really haven't sold me on the need for this.
I think at the end of the day, it's a savings to the taxpayer, and it makes life easier on everybody, town and county included. And it puts us in the driver's seat of our own cash flow.
Mr. Mayor, your motion stands.
We have a motion on the floor. I'll entertain a second if there be one.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, a show of hands. 4, all against, 1. 4-1 on the agreement. Agenda item number 12 is a consideration of engineering services agreement for utility relocation. Mr. Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, unfortunately, I don't have the agreement for your consideration in front of you. However, it relates to the Little River Bridge that is scheduled for replacement in 2022. As part of that project, the town does have utilities that are in the area that will need to be relocated. DOT reach out and give us an option to have a town selected engineer to design that relocation. Because of the proximity to the Bledsoe Creek Interceptor line that was awarded in the state budget, we think it is very advantageous to have one engineer kind of oversee both projects simultaneously because they will impact each other. So we have indicated DOT that we would like the Lane Group to do that engineering for the utility relocation under an existing service contract. Obviously, this is an addition to his scope of work, so there will be a cost associated with that. However, DOT will reimburse our charges for engineering services related to the utility relocation. The engineer has been given a deadline to have his preliminary designs to DOT by December the 15th. However, he is waiting on a plan set for what the bridge is gonna do, whether it move, go back in the same spot, etc., before he can do design work for utilities. Giving his time frame that he has to complete work in, we will need to execute a service contract with him before our next meeting. So I would request that the council authorize us to enter into that contract, appropriate the upfront dollars from professional services. Once we get DOT reimbursement, that would go back into that line item. And I will present the cost of those services to the council at the January meeting.
I make a motion, we go ahead and authorize you to do that, Brian.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. A show of hands in favor, please. 5-0 on that. Managers report.
Very brief tonight, just one item. I just wanted to let the council know that the downtown Sparta Historic District was approved by the State Historic Preservation Officer. It has been sent to the Department of the Interior for registering in historic places. That should take about 3 to 4 months. Once that's occurred, we'll get a nice certificate suitable for hanging to demonstrate our little town is a historic place. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, appreciate that. Before we get into there is no other business other than, I'd like for Charlie Scott to come to the podium for just a second. Charlie, if you'll come to the podium for just a minute. Man behind the camera here that is filming for us, Allegheny Community TV, and we really appreciate Charlie doing our meetings. We appreciate that, but the thing that I want to make mention of too is that our town has never looked brighter than what it does right now. With all the lights that are in town, and we want to send our appreciation to you and your staff for the work that you've put out there doing and making Sparta look beautiful here for a Christmas season. All the lights, all the merchants that have pitched in and decorated, the chamber who's put the little trees out there, our town maintenance staff, and our town manager even went out and put some garland around the poles and lights. I for one, and I believe the rest of the council will agree with me that our town has never looked more beautiful right now than it is right now. And we thank you for your efforts. And I just want to make that public, that we thank you and your staff for your efforts.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charlie, you make the town beautiful year round.
Now get back behind the camera.
You make it beautiful year
Just get
round.
behind the camera now. But we do that. We want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. This is our last meeting of the year. We'll be back in 2022 in January to get it up. But I would also like to commend, it has been already put in the newspaper, and I'd like to commend our town manager for the project that he put together in getting us some money from the state budget. I believe we have a grand total of 8.3 coming our way. Is that correct, Mr. Manager?
That is correct. Mr. Mayor.
$8.3 million coming to the town of Sparta for infrastructure repairs. And that means that we're going to have some roads paved. We're going to have some sidewalks. We're going to get our sewer interceptors done. We're going to get our bridges fixed. Folks, we're going to fix it up. We're going to do it right. And I'd like to thank the people down in Raleigh, Sarah Stevens, Deanna Ballard, and every one of those senators and representatives that voted this budget to help us out. This is the largest sum of money that I believe Sparta has seen from a state budget. So kudos to you, Mr. Manager, for the excellent job that you did in preparing that right there. I appreciate that.
Was any of this passed through from the federal infrastructure?
This is in the North Carolina state budget.
Was it, any of it passed through from the federal money?
1.3 million for
Was-
the wastewater
was
will
passed through.
have federal ties.
Thank you.
So Great appreciation to our representatives and our state senator. Also, before you, you have the numbers on the way our budget looks right now. If everybody's okay with that and has any questions, Peggy will answer any questions. If you have any of that, we're good to go. Am I correct? Collections are good. All right. That being all said and done, we'll open up the floor for public comment at this time. And there being no movement, we will close our public comment. And I need to entertain a motion to go into closed session by General Statute 143-318.
Before you do, I have one request. I would like to see on the agenda for next month, Cole's idea about the garbage collection. And just on the agenda for next month.
Now we'll entertain that motion for the closed session.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor of going to closed motion? Thank you. We will be in closed session. Thank you.